right, folks, what a day in American electoral history, in just American history. Trump, his second inauguration, in his inaugural address. And you know, as I was going through and reading his speech, what we're witnessing today and going forward, I think, is a fundamental shift in American politics. And we're not talking about, you know, the typical, like, this was the most important election of our lifetime rhetoric that we hear every 4 years. What I'm talking about are very real, substantive changes in how we approach governance. So what we're going to do today is break this down piece by piece, because there's a lot to unpack here. First, and this is huge, Trump explicitly called out the weaponization of government agencies against American citizens. I mean, think about that for a second. When was the last time you heard a president, on their inauguration day no less, directly acknowledge how federal agencies have been used to target political opponents? It's like that moment in sales when you finally name the elephant in the room that everyone knows is there, but nobody wants to talk about. Like when I'm sitting down with a potential client and they're dancing around the fact that their current contact center solution is absolutely terrible, but they don't want to say it outright because once you chose it. I just channel my inner Joe Biden. What are you talking about, man? And by the way, let's talk about something that I think grabbed my attention and grabbed a lot of folks' attention, and that was this reoccurring emphasis on government competency, or shall I say, rather, the lack thereof. Trump said something that really resonated. He said, we now have a government that cannot manage even a simple crisis at home, while at the same time stumbling into a continuing catalog of catastrophic events abroad. And I mean, like, isn't that the truth? Think about COVID for a second. Remember when the experts couldn't even figure out if masks worked or not? Or how about when small businesses were deemed non-essential while big box stores, they stayed open? The government's response to COVID was like watching someone try to perform brain surgery with oven mitts on, while they had all the tools, but absolutely no idea how to effectively use them. Now, this is where it also gets a little interesting. Trump's proposing of the new Department of Government Efficiency, which we have all come to know and love as DOGE. And of course, I know what you're thinking. I know it. Brian, he's making another government entity. How is that making government more efficient? I hear you, but hear me out. The recognition that our bloated bureaucracy needs serious reform is spot on. Like in my day job, sometimes you need to bring in outside expertise to identify and fix small, systematic problems. But the key difference is in the private sector, if you don't fix those problems, you go out of business. In government, you just get a bigger budget next year. And let's dig into something that I think is absolutely crucial. And this was Trump's commitment to ending federal censorship and restoring free speech. And I know what the critics are going to be saying, but Brian, isn't this just standard Republican talking points? In the past, maybe, but in 2025? Nope, not even close. This is specifically addressing government coordination with tech companies to suppress certain viewpoints. And this is something we saw exposed in the Twitter files. This isn't about private companies making their own content decisions. This is about stopping government coercion in the digital town square, which is a huge, huge difference. The foreign policy aspects of his speech, by the way, were fascinating as well, because instead of the typical neocon saber rattling that we usually get, Trump emphasized peace through strength and avoiding unnecessary conflicts, which is a just cataclysmic shift from the military-industrial complex's perpetual war machine that we've been watching beat on and on for decades. He specifically said, we will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars that we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into. That is not just a policy statement. That is a complete paradigm shift in how we as America approach our foreign policy. And let's talk about some stuff that might ruffle some feathers. Looking at my friends in the libertarian movement, his approach to immigration and border security. Now, regardless of where you stand on this immigration policy, we can all agree that the current situation not working for anyone. It's like having a front door that doesn't lock. And it doesn't matter how nice your house is if you can't control who's coming in and out. And let's also talk about the ending of this practice of social engineering through government policy. Trump also stated, quite plainly, mind you, that this week, I, Donald Trump, will also end the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life. And think about it. How many times have we seen well-intentioned government programs actually make problems worse? It's like trying to fix a leaky pipe using the duct tape. Yep, just like my dad used to do. Yeah, it might look like you're doing something, but sorry, Dad, you're just creating a bigger problem down the road. And the economic portions of the speech were also quite interesting because Trump was talking about using tariffs to generate revenue from foreign sources rather than domestic taxation. Now, I know my economics, and I know my economic-minded friends are probably having heart palpitations right now, and I get it, but hear me out. Hey folks, I want to take a moment to talk about something that has truly changed my life, and that is Cardio Miracle, our incredible studio sponsor. Now, I'll be honest, when I first heard about Cardio Miracle and their claims about improving heart health, I was skeptical. But after using it for just about 2 months, I was absolutely blown away by the results. First, my blood pressure went from being consistently around 140/90 to a much more healthier and manageable 120/80, and my resting heart rate dropped from the low 70s to the high 50s, and I couldn't believe it. But the benefits didn't stop there. I started sleeping better, and I felt more energized at the gym, and my heart felt the best it's felt in years. And it's not just me. Hundreds of you, our amazing listeners, have reached out to share your own incredible experiences with Cardio Miracle. So, what is Cardio Miracle, and how does it work? It's a carefully crafted supplement that harnesses the power of nitric oxide to support optimal heart function. So, by increasing nitric oxide levels in your blood, Cardio Miracle helps relax your blood vessels, improve circulation, and it protects your heart from damage. It's like giving your heart the support it needs to function at its best. And here's the best part. We've got an exclusive offer just for you, our loyal listeners here at The Brian Nichols Show. When you head over to cardiomiracle.com and use code TBNS at checkout, you'll get an extra 15% discount on your order. Plus, with their 100% money-back guarantee, you've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. So, if you're ready to take control of your heart health and experience the life-changing benefits of Cardio Miracle for yourself, just click the link in the show notes or video description. Trust me, your heart will thank you. And don't wait another day to prioritize your health. Join the tens of thousands of folks who have already discovered the Cardio Miracle difference. Head to cardiomiracle.com now and use code TBNS for 15% off your order. Your journey to a happier and healthier heart starts today. And now, let's get back to the show. While tariffs aren't ideal, and I would dare say contrary to the free markets, the idea of shifting the tax burden away from American citizens and onto foreign countries and entities is at least worth discussing. It's like when I'm helping a client reduce their operating costs. Sometimes you have to make some strategic trade-offs to achieve your long-term goals. And I get it, yes, a tariff can be a tax on the American consumer, but it also is a behavioral switch, which we can use as a lever to help address a lot of the issues we're facing when it comes to foreign trade deficits. Now let's talk about something that I think really matters, and this is Trump's commitment to ending the weaponization of federal agencies. This isn't just about politics. This right here is about the fundamental fairness and the rule of law. Because when government agencies become political weapons, we're no longer living in a republic. We're living in, as our friend Joe Biden would say, an oligarchy, with Democratic window dressings at that. Oh, and by the way, speaking of oligarchies, his comments about the Panama Canal were interesting. Like, I'm not here to debate the merits of that specific policy, but it definitely raises an important question about American interests and how we protect them. It's like when you have a great product, but you're letting the competitors control the distribution channels. Eventually, you're going to run into some problems. And here's what it really comes down to here, folks. America's at a crossroads. We cannot continue down this path of ever-expanding government control, bureaucratic incompetence. Guys, we got to try something different. And just elephant in the room. Trump's address, whatever you think about him personally, his address represents a fundamental change to the status quo that's been failing Americans for decades. And the proof will be in the pudding, as they say. Will these policies actually work? Will he actually stick to these policies? Will they make America better? Those are the empirical questions that time, and only time, can answer. But at least we're having a real conversation about the real issues facing our country instead of getting caught up in the traditional political theater, as represented by a bunch of theater kids. Remember what I always say, instead of focusing on winning arguments, we need to do what? Focus on winning hearts and minds by doing what, folks? Say it with me. Meeting people where they're at on the issues they care about. Good job. And from what I'm seeing in this speech specifically, that's exactly what's happening. I mean, think about it. It's like when you're trying to sell someone on a new idea. You don't start by telling them everything they believe is wrong. You start by understanding their concerns, acknowledging those problems, and then offering very real, tangible solutions. And that is exactly what this speech did. Now, I know some of my friends in the liberty movement might be skeptical, saying, well, Brian, this is still big government. And yeah, there are definitely elements of this speech that aren't perfect, especially from a purely principled perspective. Ooh, alliteration. I like it. But here's the thing. We live in the real world. Yes, the real world, not in some theoretical perfect land that you have created called Libertopia. In the real world, folks, sometimes you have to take steps in the right direction, even if they're not perfect steps. It's like when I'm working with a client who's got a really outdated phone system. Sometimes you have to upgrade incrementally because a complete overhaul isn't feasible all at once. The key is to keep moving in the right direction. And there's a lot in this speech that suggests that we're doing exactly that. From reducing foreign interventions to protecting civil liberties to acknowledging the problems with our bureaucratic state. These are all steps in that right direction. And look, I'm not here to tell you that Trump's perfect or everything in this speech is going to work out exactly as planned. But what I am saying is that there is a clear shift happening in American politics, where we're moving away from the old establishment model of government knows best toward something that, dare I say, looks a lot like what we've been advocating for years, libertarians. Limited government, individual liberty, and actually solving real problems instead of just talking about them. But hey, what do you think? Am I reading too much into Trump's speech? Not enough? Let me know down in the comments. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And if you want more raw, unfiltered analysis of what's really happening in American politics, head to briannicholsshow.com and make sure you follow me on social media, X, Facebook, wherever it is you do your social medias. You can find me, B. Nichols Liberty. And remember, folks, good people bring out the good in people. So let's focus not just on solutions, but on what makes a good person. And by the way, this is Brian Nichols signing off. Thanks again for joining. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to The Brian Nichols Show. Find more episodes at briannicholsshow.com.